So I finally got around to seeing Red One. I'm gonna make this as simple as possible. Whatever you thought of the trailer for this movie is pretty much exactly what you're going to think of the film. I can guarantee that. Because that's pretty much what happened to me. Now, this is just going to be a spoiler review because this movie's been out for weeks. I intended to see this back when it came out weeks ago, but I obviously just didn't. But I guess it works. It's December 1st, so why not review the Christmas movie now? And I probably won't have a ton to say about this movie. I will say this right off the bat. It's not nearly as bad as the initial reports were saying. Because before the trailer came out, when I was seeing all the initial stuff, like the bullshit The Rock was pulling behind the scenes, made me think that I was gonna hate this movie. Just out of spite, if nothing else. Because The Rock has been tainting his own reputation for several years now, and he's not doing anything to improve it. It doesn't help when pretty much every movie, he plays the exact same character, and this movie is no exception. It's the same performance as the Fast and the Furious movies, the same performance as Black Adam. It's just the stoic action hero with barely any emoting whatsoever. And I'm getting a little sick of seeing this same role be done over and over and over again. But I did like the initial concept for this film, so that's why I was hoping it was good. Is it good? Well, I can't go that far, but it's definitely not a bad movie per se. So, why don't we get into the good stuff first? The good stuff is, first off, the acting is pretty good all around. Again, Johnson's, how should I put this, not cliche stoic performance, but it's the same performance you get in pretty much any movie starring The Rock. So, if you like those performances, you'll like his performance here. Chris Evans does a pretty good job, Lucy Liu does really good, and this proves my case when I said that her bad performance in Shazam 2 was more on the script and direction than it was her own fault. Because I said she was given a really shitty character in that movie, and I still maintain that. I recently rewatched the movie, and it's way worse than I thought. I remember I gave that thing a C+. Really? That movie, I may have to do another video on that movie, because that did not hold up. J.K. Simmons is pretty fun as Santa or Nick or whatever you want to call him. I do like that they call him Nick in this, like Saint Nick, obviously. I do like that they just kind of call him that instead of calling him Santa throughout the entire film. Kiernan Shipka is the villain in this, and she's a really good actress. She was really good in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and I'm going to be perfectly honest, I think that's the only thing I've seen her in. There might have been some other, small movie I saw her in or something, but she's a really good actress. Unfortunately, the character she's given is not very interesting, and her motivation is a gigantic ripoff of the Santa Claus 2, which, by the way, I obviously rewatched, and it's one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time, so you think I would like that this movie is ripping it off. I really don't, because it's not done great. Her goal in this is basically to punish everyone on the naughty list, but the way she goes about it is essentially everybody in the world, because anybody who's done even something remotely bad, even to the point of if someone lies one time, then that counts. It's the same thing that happens with the Santa Claus too, where the Robo-Santa or Toy Santa, whatever you want to call him, he had the same problem, but the difference is that the Toy Santa didn't really understand how all of this worked, and even when the elves tried to explain it to him, he still couldn't grasp it because, he's not human. He doesn't have emotions. He doesn't understand this type of thing, which was kind of the entire point of that movie. The Toy Santa was supposed to be a gigantic mistake, and that was the entire point of why he kind of worked as a villain. But I don't even remember what the villain's name is in this. It's like Grinda or something, where she's a witch who's also, like, her actual appearance is supposed to be that. They say it's like an 800-foot ogre, even though when she's in her true form at the end of the film, and we'll get back to that in a little bit, she's only like 20 feet tall. So I don't know what they were going with there. One thing I can praise this movie for is that it has some creative ideas to it. Like, I like that they have talking polar bears and talking penguins who work at the North Pole. It's not just Santa and the elves, there's other, like, winter creatures going around helping with all this stuff. And during the montage at the end where Nick's delivering the gifts, because you have to have that in a movie with Santa Claus in it, it's usually a giant sack filled with presents, and it's basically Hermione's bag from the Deathly Hallows, where it's almost like an endless bag, or the one from the Polar Express where the bag is the size of a small town. Here, the presents are doled out very tiny, and then once he delivers them, he enlarges them. That's a really clever idea on how to get around it, because that tech's been used all throughout the film, particularly with the cars like you saw in the trailer. The action sequences are totally fine, I guess, except for the climax. But again, I'll just get into that now. There's not much to this movie. I do like the relationship between Jack O'Malley, Chris Evans' character, and his son. I like how it was done. It was kind of... It's not just the cliche like the first Santa Claus did, where he's just not around because he works a lot. Jack, he's not exactly in the best line of work because he's, well, a criminal, basically. And he distances himself from his son because he doesn't want his son to be like him. He knows that he's a bad influence on his son, but his son doesn't even seem to... One, he doesn't really know he doesn't know what he actually does for a living, and he just wants to have his dad around. And I like how that all comes together at the end of the film. Now, the climax of this movie is... Up to that point, the movie was kind of dumb. Oh, one thing else I want to get into before I get into that is that Santa's brother is in this, and his brother is Krampus. And I wasn't sure if I would like this idea or not when it was brought up. I mean, I'm glad they didn't do something incredibly stupid. Like, I remember you ever seen the movie Fred Claus with Vince Vaughn and Paul Giamatti, where that was Santa's brother, and it's one of the stupidest fucking comedies I've ever seen in my life? At least they didn't go that route. Having Krampus as his brother, and it was the one who basically created the naughty list, that's another interesting idea that this movie, they don't really take full advantage of it, of at least that particular part of it, but it's an interesting idea nonetheless. But then we get to the climax, and this is where the movie becomes pants-on-head retarded. Because not only is the actual, like, battle kind of shitty, Krampus just kind of shows up out of nowhere to help in the fight, and doesn't really do jack shit. In fact, he's taken out very easily by the villain of the film, and it's kind of pathetic watching this demon be whipped around like a wet paper towel. But whatever, I guess. The comedy for the film is fine. Plenty of jokes got a chuckle out of me. There were plenty of jokes that did not work. I don't think there wasn't a single joke that made me, like, laugh out loud. There wasn't any, like, ridiculously funny jokes. Even the jokes that did kind of make me chuckle, a lot of them were pretty predictable. A lot of these jokes I could see coming a mile away, but some of them did still work. Physical comedy didn't really work here, and Evans and Johnson didn't exactly work as well as you would think, because this is another one of those movies that just grabbed two big movie stars. Well, I say movie stars, I don't even think Evans is that big of a movie star, because most movies he is in that do not have the Marvel Studios logo on it, bomb. And this was no exception. This movie flopped badly, especially since the movie's budget was like $200 million, because of course it was, and it flopped big time. It is not making its money back, and honestly, yeah, I'm not shocked even in the slightest. This movie would have had to make bank in order to make its money back. And it doesn't help with it coming out in November, which is now a big tentpole month. Ever since Marvel started releasing movies in November, then the Fantastic Beasts movies released in November, so now November's a big tentpole month for more blockbusters. So this movie was basically hung out to dry. But I would recommend waiting for streaming for this one. It's definitely not a bad movie. I will say that. It's not a bad movie by any means, but it's not a go rush out and see it before it's out of theaters. Wait, I don't know what streaming service is going to hit. This was, this was MGM and I think Lionsgate or something. I don't even remember what fucking company made this. So wait for Netflix or whatever, or Amazon or whatever streaming service it goes to. Don't pay full price to see this movie. But it's definitely not a bad film. This isn't a big Christmas classic, but you could do worse. If you want to see a Christmas movie where Dwayne Johnson is fighting CGI snowmen, by the way, the CGI in this movie is pretty hit and miss. Like, the creatures look okay, but then the final, like, gift delivering scene at the end looks noticeably awful. But, yeah, that's all I got for Red One. I'm gonna give this... What do I want to give this? I'll give this a flat C. I probably won't watch this every Christmas, but I wouldn't be shocked if I ended up putting it on once or twice once it hits streaming. Again, don't go rush out into a theater and see this movie. It's really not worth that. But again, if you want to see, you know exactly what you're getting with this movie. You're getting basically Christmas Jumanji. It's Dwayne Johnson doing his action movie thing, Chris Evans making hit and miss jokes, and that's, again, if you want that, that's really, again, what you see is what you get. Whatever you thought of the trailer, if you thought this looks like a masterpiece, it's probably what you'll think of the movie. If you thought this looked like Yuletide crap, you'll probably think the movie's Yuletide crap. So that's all I got, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.